Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Puji Indah. I am from Accounting Education 2016. In this video, I would like to presenting about my proposal result. The title is The Role of the Self-Efficacy as a Mediator of the Family Involvement and Motivation to Entrepreneurial Interest in Educational Student in Faculty of Economics of State University of Jakarta. In the first capture, I want to explain about the background. As reported from databooks.katadata.co.id, Indonesia is ranked as the fourth most occupied country in the world after China, India, and United States. Indonesia has a population of 274 million people. The more citizens in Indonesia, then the more unemployment too. This is because the available work isn't comparable with million citizens in Indonesia. So there must be a competition to get the job in Indonesia. The competition required citizens to have a skill to be able to have a job. One thus required is education. And then, as reported from sindonews.com, current economic growth requires a millennial. Therefore, young people must have a sense of care, a sense of nation, not easy to give up, and should have a strong desire to keep trying a new thing. College students are young generation who have the opportunity to gain higher knowledge and competence than high school graduates. However, the fresh graduates are more prepared to get the job than quit the other one. It's shown from bps.go.id that unemployment rate open at the university in 2017 increased from 4.98% to 6.31% in 2018. This can be proof that there are so many unemployment in Indonesia. The solution to overcome unemployment is to increase the interest of entrepreneurial. With entrepreneurship, someone can create their own job and not rely on the other people or companies to get a job. The Faculty of Economics at the State University of Jakarta is the one of faculty that support the college students to develop entrepreneurial spirit. It's shown from the mission of Faculty of Economics at State University of Jakarta. The mission is organize Tridharma in the college to prepare the human research in the field of business, economic, educational, knowledge, globally insightful, entrepreneurial spirit, has a conscience, adaptive to technology change, and highly skilled and acquirability. Interest can be arise due to several factors. The first factor is intrinsic factor, and the second factor is extrinsic factor. The first factor is intrinsic factor from the individual, such as self-efficacy and motivation. And the second factor is extrinsic factor from the outside individual, such as family environment. The conclusion is students are the ideal generation to foster entrepreneurial interest. However, there are still a lot of students that less interest in entrepreneurial. Students more interested in becoming a worker with a small risk than to be an entrepreneur. In the second capture, I would like to explain about theoretical studies. The first variable in this research is entrepreneurial interest. Entrepreneurial interest is a tendency for someone to be attracted to an activity or activity related to an entrepreneurial company by a desire to engage in such entrepreneurial activity without any compulsion. According to Kurniati 2015, factors that affect entrepreneurial interest can be grouped into two: intrinsic factor and extrinsic factor. According to Indarti and Rostiani 2008, factor can affect the interest of entrepreneurial person, including self-efficacy and need for achievement. And then entrepreneurial interests have four indicators. The first indicator is feeling pleasure. The second indicator is interest. The third indicator is attention, and the last one is involvement. The next variable is family environment. Family environment is a small social group consisting of father, mother, children, and other family members who are the primary education for a child from birth to adulthood to develop his personality as a provision for his life to social society. According to Burns in the study 2012, the family have 5 basic functions. The first is reproduction function, the second is socialization or education, the third is social role assignment, the fourth is economic support, and the last one emotional support or maintenance. Meanwhile, according to Gunarsa and Gunarsa 2008, the family environment has function of various perspectives. The first perspective is biological perspective, the second is psychology development, the third is education, and then sociology, and then religion, and economic perspective. The family environment have 3 indicators. The first indicator is the way parents to educate. The second indicator is relationship between family members, and the last one is family economic circumstance. The next variable is motivation. Motivation is a characteristic of behavior that encourages a person to perform an activity based on a need in order to achieve the objective. Motivation can divide into two. The first intrinsic motivation and the second is extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation such as individual. This motivation influenced by need, expectancy, and interest. And the extrinsic motivation from external influence such as family environment and reward. Motivation has the following indicators. The first indicator is the urge to do something, and the second indicator is have a need, and the last one has certain objective or incentive. The last variable is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is a belief in someone who comes from within the individual to his ability that will affect in carrying out an activity well, so that it is able to achieve the objective that he wants to achieve. Self-efficacy has the following indicators. The first indicator is magnitude, the second indicator is generality, and the last indicator is strength. And then there is a relevant research journal that become a reference of this research. The first is Dini Agus Miati and Agus Wahyudin in 2018. The next Agus Kurniawan, Muhammad Kafid, and Amin Pujiati in 2016. Third, Kurnia Dewi in 2019. And next, Muhammad Jailani, Rudasti, and Ketut Sodharma in 2017. Next, Siva Farida and Ahmad in 2016. Next, Nimade Cynthia in 2019. And then the next is theoretical review. This research has 7 theoretical review. The first is the influence of the family environment of entrepreneurial interest. The second is the influence of the motivation on entrepreneurial interest. The third is the influence of the self-efficacy on entrepreneurial interest. The fourth is the influence of the family environment on self-efficacy. The fifth is the influence of motivation on self-efficacy. The sixth is the influence of the family environment on entrepreneurial interest with self-efficacy as a moderating variables. And the last one is the influence of the motivation on entrepreneurial interest with a self-efficacy as moderating variable. And the next is research hypothesis. In this research have 7 hypotheses. The first hypothesis is there is an influence between the family environment on entrepreneurial interest. The second hypothesis is there is an influence between the motivation on entrepreneurial interest. And then 3 hypothesis, there is an influence between the self-efficacy on entrepreneurial interest. The fourth hypothesis is there is an influence between the family environment on self-efficacy. The fifth hypothesis, there is an influence between the motivation on self-efficacy. The sixth hypothesis, there is an influence between the family environment on entrepreneurial interest with self-efficacy as a moderating variable. And the last hypothesis is there is an influence between the motivation on entrepreneurial interest with self-efficacy as moderating variable. In the last capture, I want to explain about the research methodology. This research will be conducted in Educational Student College in Faculty of Economics of State University of Jakarta. This research will be conducted as from June until July 2020, and then the research use quantitative research with survey method. The data obtained is primary data. And the research will be take 290 students of population with 168 students as a sample. The data obtained comes from the questionnaire with some question. The analysis data use one, descriptive statistical analysis, and second, test analysis requirement, third, classical assumption test, fourth, hypothesis test, and the last one is path analysis. Okay, I think it's enough for me, and I'm so sorry if I make a mistake. And then thank you for attention and the opportunity that was given for me to present the research proposal. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.